Hey guys, it's Sam for Digital Meat, and in this Cinema 4D tutorial I'm going to be talking about animation offset for clones. So let's just get on with it. So I'm going to create a cube and I'm going to size this, let's say 1 meter, so 100 centimeters by 600 by 100. So we get something like this. And I'm going to move this up 300. So if we go to coordinates, I'm going to move it up in the Y by 300. So it sits on the floor. And well, I'm going to change my display to ground shading line so we can see it. Go back to the object and I'm going to create segments in the Y. 30 should do us. And I'm going to make it editable. Okay, so now we've done that, I'm going to go to my deformers and choose a bend and put this under my cube, or make it a child even. Then I'm going to click the fit to parent button so it fits around it, and if we adjust the strength now we can see that it's doing its job. So I'm going to animate that strength property. So we're at 0. I'm going to make sure that we're straight up there, so I'm going to keyframe this. Then I'm going to move it along to the end and make sure it's back to 0 there as well. And then I'm just going to make a couple of keyframes from side to side, one being there, and at 60 I'll have it go the other way to something like this and keyframe that. So what we get is something like this. Oh, at 60 it doesn't appear to have... Oh, we need it to go the other way, like this. And we need to key that. Okay, so that should give us what we're looking for. Okay, there we go. It bends that way, bends back, and bends, comes back to its original position. So, you'll notice there's a little bit of stretch in there as well, and that's because we haven't got this clicked, keep Y-axis length. So if I check that, it'll keep its length while making that bend. So there we go. Okay, so that'll do us for now. I'm now going to put this cube inside a cloner object. So with the cube selected, I'm going to go up to MoGraph, go to cloner and hold Alt. That'll put our cube inside the cloner object, and you'll notice the color's changed slightly, well, to white, and this is not what I want. So we're on linear at the moment, and it's separating by 50 centimeters in the Y. I'm going to choose this to a grid array. So let's do that. And we don't want any clones in the Y direction. There we go. And we want to separate these out slightly. So let's give these a little bit of room. So I'm going to say 400. Yeah, that's fine. And 400 on the Z direction as well. So we get this. Now, if I were to add more clones now, it would fill up the gaps between our clones. And I don't want that. I want it to add clones onto my already existing setup. So instead of this mode being at endpoint, we can change this per step. And as I add clones now, it will take our original attributes and just sort of add clones to it. So I'm going to go up to maybe 6. Yep, that's fine. So now we've got our clones, and it's a clone of this object with an animation on it. So if I press play now, you'll see that all the clones move in the way they should. I'm just going to knock the time up, so there's one more second on this. Okay, so now we've got our setup. Now I want to offset the animations for these clones. I don't want them all to be moving at the same time. And there's several ways that we can do this. So first way, with my cloner selected, I'm going to go to MoGraph and then Effector. And I'm going to choose the step effector. So let's deal with that first. Now you can see what's happened straight away is that the size is being affected. And if we go to the parameter tab of the step effector, we can see the scale's turned on. So let's turn that off, and we can see now we're back to normal. And if we press play, we've got exactly what we had before. But in the step effector at the bottom here, in the parameter tab, at the bottom we've got this time offset. So let's offset this by 1 second. So now I've offset that, we can rewind to the beginning and press play. And you can see now that there is an offset. Wonderful. And we can make this as big or small as we want. So we've got an offset of 2 seconds now. It doesn't quite make it to the end, so let's just put some more time on our timeline, 5 seconds. We'll stretch that out. Okay. So we can do that via this step effector. Now there are other factors that we still get this time offset on, and they will be specific to those effectors. So this is one way of doing it with the step effector. Let's have a look at another way of doing it. So if I turn this step effector off, choose our cloner again, and go to MoGraph, effector, and let's do random. So you can see already that the position of our clones has been moved, and that's because if we select our random effector and go to the parameter tab, we can see that its position is being moved 50 centimeters in the XYZ direction. So let's turn that off. And again, we've also got this time offset at the bottom. So let's do what we did before and put 1 second in there, and we get a very different result. So the animation offset is 1 second, but we are using the random effector, so that offset is now random. Whereas with the step effector, it was a step, so it was using the index of clones and all the, that kind of things. But with the random effector, the offset will be 1 second, but completely random. And we can actually change this randomness as well by going to the effector and choosing changing the seed value. So we're actually changing the pattern of the randomness. So if we change this value, you see that we've got a very different result. So that's another way you can do it. You can do it with the random effector. Let's have a look at another effector. So let's turn the random off, choose our cloner again. We'll get this back to the beginning. Yeah. Okay, so choose a cloner, MoGraph, effector, and I'm going to choose the shader effector. Now, as you can see, again, something's happened, and if we go to our parameter tab, we can see that the scale has been changed. So let's turn that off, and let's put 1 second in our time offset and press play. Nothing's happening. Oh, there we go. We've got something happening, but they're all moving at the same time, and that's because we're using this time offset, but we are using the shader effector. So basically this time offset is based on this effector. So if we go to the shading tab, we've got a slot here for a custom shader, and we can choose, let's choose a gradient. There we go, gradient. You can see something's happened here in the middle in terms of the color. And that's because if we go back to parameter, we've got this color mode on and got a blended mode. Yeah, okay. So if I turn the alpha strength off, we can see what this looks like. And if we press play, we can see that the black clones move first up to the white clones. So we can actually turn this off. So if I rendered in this mode now, we'd get this black to white progression. But if we didn't want to see that, we could obviously override that with a material on our cloner, or we could choose our shader effector and just turn this color mode to off. It would have exactly the same effect. Oh, let's get that back to 5 seconds. Yeah, as I was saying, it has exactly the same effect. It's not visualized in the viewport. But for the time being, we'll allow it to be visualized in the viewport because it helps us sort of understand what's going on. Okay, so as you can see, black all the way to white last, right? So if I go back to the shading and go into my gradient now and swap these, so white this side and black the other, we can see that the order has now changed, and it does this, which is really, really powerful, because it means we get a little bit more control of our clones. And just to demonstrate this a little bit more, I think I'm going to add a few more clones in here. Remember, we're in the per step setting. So let's whack this up to 10 and 10. So we've got a little bit more of a better resolution when it comes to, what's happening here. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to our shader and our shading tab, and we've got this gradient. Let's go into it. Actually, no. Let's go into it, and then we can choose what type of gradient we've got. So we were on 2DU. Let's try 2DV. Now, nothing's happening. What's going on? They're all moving at the same time again. And it's because this gradient is being applied in a vertical direction, and we're in the white here. So that's not going to work for us. Let's see if we can actually bring the black down this end and see if we can get any of the black in there. No, it just doesn't work like that. So it's not the direction that we want. So that is not going to work out. Let's go to diagonal, see what we get. Well, obviously here we can see that it starts in the corner and then sort of moves up, but that isn't really reflected here, which is a shame. No, not at all. And if we go through some of the other ones, you can see this got this radial here and it's not really being applied here. And circular doesn't really look like what we've got there. Same with box and star and all that kind of stuff. And there's a reason for that. It's because we are in the shader, we're using this gradient, and here we need to sort out the mapping. So we've got it tiled at the moment. If I take, let's have a look. Let's go back to something we can understand quite well. Okay, so a circular one, that's a good example. So if we oh. So yeah, if we bring the black down, so yeah, there we go. There's a better description of a circle there now. You can see that nothing's going on here. So if we go back and have a look at our offset, let's you can see that nothing's happening yet. So if we change the length, maybe. Oh, we've got something happening now. So let's bring this down to 50 and 50. So again, we've got something happening. Let's make our clones. Let's make more clones so we can see what's going on. Let's make this count 20 by 20. Oh, we don't want 20 in the Y. So let's bring that back down to 0. And still, we're not really getting a result in terms of what's going on there. So again, let's bring our length down to 20 and 20, and maybe offset. Oh, now you can see the problem. It's almost like our texture is being applied vertically, not in the direction that we want. And there's not a lot we can do about that from here, because we're just putting a shader inside this gradient, which really is a shame. Maybe rotating the shader could help, you're thinking? Nope, not in that direction, and not in that direction. So we have another option. Instead of doing what we're doing here, let's clear this, and let's make a material. So we're going to make a material. We can turn the reflectance off, we're not going to need that. And in the color channel, I'm going to put a gradient. And we're going to leave it as that for the time being. That's fine. And if we go back to our shader, instead of the custom shader, let's reset all our mapping as well. Let's reset this. It doesn't reset. Brilliant. Oh no, it did. Default value 0. Okay, so we're back to where we were. So instead of using this custom shader, we can use the color channel, and then it's going to say, well, the color channel of what? And it'll be this material, but it's asking for a texture tag, so this needs to be on something. So let's just put this on the shader for now. Okay, and let's choose this shader again, and then it's asking for the texture tag, so we can grab that and just bung it in here. Great stuff. And obviously it's being visualized again. It doesn't have to be. If we go back to our shader effector parameters and change this to off, even though this texture tag is driving all of this, it doesn't have to be visible. So we can, oh, that's getting bogged down a little bit. Let's go to our clones and go to render instances. So object, render instances. So that should speed up our viewport a little bit now. Oh, they're all happening at the same time. So maybe render instances isn't the way to go with that. No, it's not. But just to speed the viewport up, I'm going to reduce the number of clones now that, we've successfully demonstrated what I was trying to demonstrate. So let's go back to 10. Okay, so we're back here. So this is our movement. Again, we don't have to view that gradient at all. But in our case, again, just because it helps us, I'm going to put the color mode on. So as you can see, the black ones move first, and then onto the white. So let's go back to our shaders shading tab. Now I can't change anything here because it's referenced in this texture tag. So we've now got to change these settings in our material. So if I go into the material, go to the gradient, and then change this to say a radial, a circular, and adjust this so you can see that we're having the same problem that we had before. We got this kind of weird stripe in the middle. It's not really showing us this result that we had before. So there's definitely something going on that is wrong. But the difference being that now this is a texture tag, we can actually fix this. We can make some changes. So let's have a look at how we'd go about doing that. Okay, so let's close this for now. Let's select our texture tag, and in Cinema 4D we can choose this texture tool, this texture mode if you like. That's no good. And the reason for that is we need to select our texture tag, and we can see that the projection's UV. I'm going to change this to flat. So as you can see that we've got this texture tag laying here now at the bottom. And we want that to lie flat, and as you can see it's laying on its sides. If I turn the clones off for a minute, there we go, we can see that that is not orientated correctly. So let's flip this, hold shift, so it's laying at 90 degrees. And we're probably going to want to size it up so it covers all our clones. Now if I just press the scale tool while in this mode, and then try and scale up, you can see it scales really, really strangely. So let's Control Z that. And we can select this tool, Enable Axis. That actually helps us out. And now when we try and scale up, it does it uniformly. Okay, so let's turn our clones back on and get into a top view here and scale this up so it covers the bounds of our clones. And go back to this view and we can see that everything's covered, and oh look, we're getting a result now. So let's turn that off, go back into object mode, so not in texture mode, and this is what we're getting now. The texture is orientated in the correct manner. So if we press play, the ones in the middle move first and then move outwards. So that really helps us out now. So if we open back up our material again and go into the gradient, all of our gradients should work. There we go, we've got a 2D U. I don't think the vertical is going to work. Oh yeah, actually it is going to work because so there we go, we've got that. Diagonal now works correctly. It will start off in this corner and sweep across, and the same with radial, circular, box, and all the rest of them. They all work perfectly. And the great thing about this is you really do get control about your animation offset, about which clones are going to be moving and when, based on this gradient. So if I go back to say a circular and just pause it a minute so this can update, this is the kind of shape we're getting. Now we can actually control this. We can say, okay, well, let's make, there's more white there, and then play. So the middle starts off and then bleeds out to the rest. And we can even control the fall off. So if I put this back to where it was, this in the middle will determine sort of like the blend, if you like. So let's move this out and then press play. So we can choose how smooth that transition is as well. And in the same vein, we can choose how harsh it is. So if we twirl this down, we've got smooth knots. We can say linear knot, all these kind of options. I'm going to choose none. So now we've got a very, very harsh fall off. And if I press play, those move and then everything else moves. So that's the benefit of having that sort of like grey scale, if you like, that you get with the smooth knots. There's this transition. And you can really control how big or small that transition is. And there you go. So guys, I hope this is helpful in some kind of way. Just a few ways there that you can control the animation offset of clones. There's more ways you can do it using other effectors, but I just wanted to show you a few of them. As always, you can check me out on Digital Meat. You can follow me, digitalmeat.uk. You can follow me on social media, links in the description. And if you'd like to help or want extra content, there'll be a Patreon link at the end of the video or in the description. Cheers for listening, guys. Bye.